Ladies and gentlemen, YouTube has gone too far this time. They've demonetized my mom's second grade math tutorial. They demonetized it. Many of her videos that are simply her, over the course of a couple minutes, explaining basic math problems to children. I don't know how you could be more wholesome and family friendly. You know, it's not a cartoon rabbit hitting another cartoon rabbit, which is violence. It's my mom teaching children to do math. It's very wholesome. Now, gets demonetized anyway. So we've seen a wave of demonetizations over the past several weeks. We've seen this big debate over economic censorship, YouTube censorship, Google censorship. And people are wondering, what are the motivations that YouTube has for taking the actions that they're taking? Well, first, we assume it's because of the adpocalypse. We look at YouTube and say, well, you know, the advertisers were pulling out because of this Wall Street Journal story, which really caused a ton of problems for Google and YouTube. And they want to make sure the site is cleaned up from extremist content. So they're demonetizing certain channels that aren't suitable for advertisers, which on the surface sounds correct until you realize, no, it's literally not true. And that's because, take news, for instance. When a video of mine gets demonetized, because I'm talking about a news topic, why would it get demonetized? Well, the argument is that advertisers don't want to buy ads on news videos, except CNN and all of the other really big news producers who have YouTube channels still have ads running on their videos. So clearly it's not the subject matter. And why is it? There's been accusations of blacklists, but I think when you see the demonetization of a second grade math tutorial, you realize YouTube they just have no idea what they're doing. And they're doing whatever it is really, really poorly, unless their mission is to randomly demonetize videos for seemingly no reason. Yeah, they're doing a pretty bad job. But one of the more alarming things that we've seen, Google recently announcing that there's going to be a sandboxing feature, that videos that don't violate the terms of service but are considered offensive, extremist, or supremacist would face sanctions. And so we've seen one of the first videos. It's a man arguing for differences in intelligence based on race. This video is put in the sandbox, as we're calling it, where there's no view count, there's no comments, there's no likes, there's no engagement, there's no share functionality. It's not going to get ads against it, and it will not be recommended to people on YouTube. Now, personally, I don't care for this person's argument. I think they're wrong. And this video is just someone putting out their argument and showing statistics and trying to make a claim for why they believe something that they do. The ideas are very offensive, and again, I personally think that they're wrong, but I think that someone calmly expressing their opinion is fine. I understand why they might want to demonetize that. An advertiser would not want to be associated with content like that. But actions like this are really scary when you realize just how powerful Google and YouTube are. And for the sake of this video, let's just call YouTube Google because it's the same company. Google is massive. It's a near monopoly. And they want to protect their bottom line like any other company. But there's so many different pieces to Google that they're attacking, that they're going into every nook and cranny to figure out how to make sure they appear wholesome. Today, it's this idea of race and intelligence. Tomorrow, it could be something like marijuana legalization. Yesterday, it could have been why LGBT rights should not be granted. Certain ideas have been offensive, but over time have become socially acceptable. And if we can't hear these ideas, then we will never come to accept them. So YouTube might be censoring this video now, but what's the next idea that's going to get shut down? To exemplify just how truly terrifying the reach of Google is and why we should seriously start paying attention to why monopolies are bad, comes from a story by Kashmir Hill in Gizmodo. She wrote about how when she was at Forbes years ago, she went to a meeting with Google where they were talking about Google+. And she made some inquiries about the Google +1 button that has been around for I don't know if it does anything. But the general idea was that pages that receive +1s, when you click, it's kind of like a like button, that will increase the likelihood someone discovers that link in a search. So what Kashmir sort of concluded was that if you didn't put the +1 button on your site, on your web page, it would suffer. And the begrudging conclusion from Google was, well, yes, technically, you know, they don't want to phrase it like that, but that would be true. Basically, Google was trying to enact some kind of social aspect to their search, and if you didn't get on board, you'd be left behind. I don't think that's entirely unreasonable, but it's interesting to say the least, and Kashmir wrote a story about it. But here's where it gets really scary. Apparently, Google was angry the story was published. They claimed that they had a non-disclosure agreement with Forbes, and that she was not supposed to write about it, which is strange because according to Kashmir, she actually got a quote from Google's PR people, so they knew damn well she was writing the story. But for whatever reason, they said the story has to come down. Now, Kashmir says that her opinion was, well, look, it's already on the web, it's been reblogged, it's there. Didn't matter. Eventually, the higher-ups at Forbes came and said the story has to come down because there could be potential ramifications for Forbes. A lot of search traffic comes from Google. A lot of search traffic also comes from Facebook. But would a company want to risk losing their traffic because of one story about a social media platform? And the answer was no. They ultimately took the story down, which is still kind of dumb because it was picked up by other outlets who reblogged it. This is where the Google part gets pretty scary. According to Kashmir, the story became almost impossible to find after that. You could Google search it, but it wasn't there. Google is the internet, basically. Sure, we want to say, we can say there's other search engines, there's other platforms, but Google really is the dominant force. We've seen TV shows where the person will pull up Bing, or they've tried plugging Bing. No one's going to use Bing. We use Google for everything. And that's really the problem. They are a damn near monopoly. And that means that in order to protect their assets, this idea of PR, this protection they want to have against public outrage, is going to affect every asset of the company. And because so much is predicated on being found on Google, whether you're a small business selling t-shirts or a major website like Forbes, Google can come to you and say, look, we will remove your link if you don't do it yourself. Not only that, we will remove your website from Google. And we can because we're a search provider. That's where it gets really scary. If Google starts to decide that certain websites are offensive, racist, or extremist, and says we're going to remove these links from Google searches, well then what's the future that we're going to see? It's a little bit of 1984, a little bit of Fahrenheit 451 with a dash of Brave New World sprinkled in. We're going to have a major corporation deciding what ideas are acceptable. People aren't going to discover certain ideas, they're not going to learn new things, and we're not going to challenge our perception, which means we can't progress. Keep in mind, homosexuality was considered bad, like really bad, not even that long ago. And it took people coming out and standing up for themselves for society to finally accept that we are okay with this. And more than that, we are proud. And now we have pride events across the world. Imagine if Google said, well, you know what, these ideas are pretty damn offensive. Not all progress is good. As we move forward and our ideas change and we take actions, not all of it is going to be perfect. Homogenizing opinion is not going to solve this problem, and telling people that certain things are offensive so you can't read them is not going to solve the problem. Now let's go back. YouTube originally said that they want to deal with extremist and supremacist content, and that I understand. When someone is trying to recruit to a cause that actively engages in violence or is in an active conflict with the United States, totally get it. Take ISIS videos, for example. YouTube says they want to deal with these kind of recruitment videos, and that makes sense. Just take it down. If someone's creating a clear and imminent threat, that's not legal. You can just delete that. This idea of them having to sandbox bad opinions is where we start to cross the line. What's really scary about Kashmir's story is that she didn't tell it for nearly 6 years. And the reason for it is that it could cause damage to the company she works at. Google could get angry, no matter what company it is. She's now writing for Gizmodo. What's to say Google doesn't go to Gizmodo and say, pull that story down too? This information should not be out in the public. It makes us look bad. Now, I really doubt that's going to happen, but it's a real possibility. And for the sake of Kashmir's story, it is important to realize that in the meeting she was called into, it was a meeting between Forbes and Google, so I would imagine Google was expecting a bit of privacy on the story. I've had meetings with Google. I've worked at companies where we've had meetings with Google, and we understand that this is them trying to bring in the news community and journalists and media to better understand how they can be more effective. And sometimes those stories should not be public. That's true. But that doesn't excuse Google for going after a story that was already published. Not only that, Kashmir says that she identified herself as a journalist and never signed an NDA. But pressure came down on the publisher from Google. They went to Forbes and said, make it happen. Regardless of whether or not Forbes made it happen, Kashmir went on to say that she couldn't even find the story. So that's where we start to say, maybe Google is too powerful. Maybe this is going too far. But I'm not going to pin all of this just on Google. Let's not forget that Facebook also deletes URLs and blocks URLs from being shared. They've put notices on certain sites. They have the whole fake news search thing. So Facebook is not immune to this either. When it comes to social platforms, Facebook also is a damn near monopoly. So we need to keep in mind that we can't let these big companies become more powerful than our government, and there's a reason why we have antitrust laws. Monopolies are bad. The monopolization of power is bad, be it the government or a massive corporation. And that's something we better start paying attention to and taking action against. We can't just say, oh, we know monopolies are bad and then do nothing. It's going to get worse if we don't act. But let me know what you think. Comment below. Is Google really a dangerous monopoly? Because this video is going to be on YouTube, and regardless of the monopoly, YouTube really is a valuable service. And YouTube is providing a platform to me, and they don't have to do that. So I do appreciate the things that YouTube and Google does. I do appreciate the service. But the reason we're taking aim at some of these practices is because we want to make sure it stays open and free. We want to make sure that it survives and remains beneficial to all of humanity so long as the technology is relevant. If you like the video, click the like button. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Timcast. If you want to support the work that I do, make sure you go to timcast.com/donate. Give whatever you'd like or give nothing at all. My videos are always free and available every day at 4 p.m. And stay tuned, periodic live streams whenever I get the chance. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you all next time.